Fusion, episode 44. I believe it's 44. Before I get started, I'm not going to lie. I forgot to look at Super Fight. I'm sorry. If you guys have seen one of the things I made on this channel, I made a Starship Enterprise about a month or so ago for a cousin. Now, I promised to make her 2 things, not 1. And along with doing the animation, I have to be working on this because eventually I'm going to be going over to the house, I think in the next couple of weeks to a month. So it's kind of complicated making it. So I've been working on it and it just slipped my mind again. I'm sorry. I know nobody asked, but I'm the type of reviewer that if I'm going to say something, if I forget it, I got to own up to it. So that's the person I am. If I make a mistake, yeah, maybe a bit stubborn sometimes, but if I know I'm wrong, I apologize and I own up to it. That's just the person I am. Now, was this show good? It was good. Not great, but it was good. Excuse me. Was it relevant? Well, I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I'll give my opinion, but it's still up to you guys. Let's open with what was his name? Baron Reed versus DJ Z, Zema Ion himself. You know, I had to actually think about that because I haven't heard Zema Ion's name in so long. I forgot. Now, it's good to see he's still wrestling, particularly what happened to him in Mexico. It's cool. And the match was okay. But what does it really give? He gave Byron Reed a good win. Because he did win, and maybe this might give a feud. But since I really haven't done a lot of reviews of MLW, I still don't know all the people that still come in and out of the company. I don't know if Reed's going to be that important. I don't even know if DJ Z is going to be sticking at MLW. I guess that's the reason why I was stammering. It kind of upsets me to know that things are kind of hard to gauge. It's not like I've been seeing this product for years. I haven't. And then seeing a lot of people that come from Impact and knowing what's been going on in the wrestling community where a lot of questions have been posed on what's about to happen with WWE and what's going to happen with All Elite Wrestling. Things are a little up in the air. And it's actually kind of making me a bit nervous. I think that's one of the reasons why what I said in my Impact review kind of makes me sound a little bit more depressed than normal. I don't try to be depressed in my videos. But my uncertainty about what's going on in the wrestling industry and the community is kind of irking me. So that's the reason why I was a little bit pessimistic in that video. And Andre, I have been hearing what you said. I know you're right. The guy who's running Impact Wrestling is a billionaire. He is. And maybe my own depression and anxiety is getting a little bit more than what I need to be expressing. But I do have some valid concerns about how the product is going to be. And I am talking about Impact and talking about MLW. I know they could be partnering up with All Elite Wrestling. But honestly, if you're going to be honest here, yes, they can partner up and do partnerships. But when wrestlers see a little bit better in one product than another, yes, they have a tendency to go from one place to another. They're going to sign a little bit more with one than over the other 2 or 3 or 5. And that's my little concern. And I think maybe it came off as a little more depressing than I should. So I'm sorry about that, guys. And particularly you, Andre. I always appreciate your opinion. You are right in many ways. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Now, Gringo Loco versus Puma King. Now, I was critical a bit of Puma King on Impact. Here, I'm not as critical. Due to the fact he wasn't trying to fake an industry. The thing that got me on my Impact review was he was not willing to sell his knee pain. Here he wasn't injured. And with Gringo Loco, who is a good wrestler, for the size he is, he's a good wrestler. Puma King's also a good wrestler. People seem to know him. But here's the problem I felt was with the match. It wasn't 100% bad. But they were both big guys. you got two big guys who do lucha libre, who are pulling off some really good moves in the very opening of it. But as it goes on, these are two large individuals. They're not small. Compared to most lucha libre wrestlers, not all, but most, they're more smaller in stature, height, size, build, and having a contrast between the two not only gives a good dynamic, it also doesn't show when the bigger guy gets tanked. And to be honest, both these guys were getting a bit tanked more than they should. And when you saw the match on the other end, when it was not a lucha libre guy going up against another lucha libre guy and a Sami Callihan, you got two guys who are big who legitimately were getting tanked very easily. And by the end, they looked like they wanted to drop, even though they were professional. And Puma King worked well. They had a couple of botches here and there, but they did make it work. And Lucha King did job to Gringo Loco. Not Lucha King. I'm getting Lucha King mixed up with Puma. I'm sorry, Puma King mixed up with Lucha King. And I'll probably make a little thing there. You'll be able to see it. Future self, please do it. But anyway, it was okay. You had MJF. It's the first time I've seen him. Saying that, well, he was kind of pissed off at Terry Hart. He really doesn't seem like he's a great role model because he used to do drugs and alcohol. I have done none and no one rewards me. I want my reward. Middleweight title. I want it. It's mine. And that's what he generally was saying. Now, since I don't know what is this guy's name? MJF, because I've never seen him before. Either he just came back or he's been there for a while. I just never saw him. I think he did say he just came back. So when it comes down to it, there's going to be an interesting situation going into Fusion 145. If it's going to be that match or it's going to be 146. I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. Let's see. H2. They had, when the Hart Foundation had the H2 segment, video, then they had the H2 Q&A. It was interesting. A lot more risque than what you see in the WWE, or I think even Impact would even talk that dirty. In a sense, talking about pussy this, pussy that, even though it was about a cat, and then about a woman, and then it went back to a cat, or women, or whatever. It was interesting. I did enjoy it. But I don't know how to feel about Terry Hart's delivery of it. Now, I haven't really heard much of Terry Hart. He doesn't sound like he's a bad talker, but because I'm not used to his lowbrow type of way that he does his promos or his talking segments, it just feels a little weird for me personally. It's not that it's bad, it's just I'm not used to it. I don't normally see lowbrow guys. The last time I saw a lowbrow guy was Brian Kendricks. The Brian Kendricks, I should take that back, not Brian Kendricks, the Brian Kendricks. He's the only other person I've seen in the last 8 to 10 years that had a lowbrow type of attitude when he talked. And it was memorable. Remember, it's not that you haven't seen it. It's that it's got to be memorable. And this, with Terry Hart, was memorable. Seeing the Brian Kendricks, the way he talked, was memorable. Anyone else that I've seen wasn't that memorable to me personally. Now, the final thing I'm going to talk about, it is the final match of the night. It is Pillman and David Hart Smith. I'm saying Smith instead of the British Bulldog. I kind of like David Hart Smith better than I don't know why I'm botching his name for some reason. It's just because I'd rather see him as David Hart Smith, his real name. And then you have him with Pillman, which was the wisest thing to do. But here was the problem for me when it came to Pillman. The Kane match still is on my mind. And I feel that he was cheated out of showing how tough he was. And it kind of reflects this match. Now, mind you, it was seeing Sandman. I'm sorry, you guys probably have seen Sandman. Anyone who's watched Major League Wrestling or anywhere else in the Indies. I legitimately have not seen Sandman, and I think in 20 years. An actual thing. 20 years it's been for me personally since I last probably saw anything with Sandman. When I just flipped something on and I saw ECW. I have not really seen anything except recordings. And yes, this is a recording, but it's the most recent recording I've ever seen of him. So I'm not going to lie, I went, damn! It is Sandman! And then the boy just proceeded to go around the ring for the first 5 minutes, just getting people drunk and drinking, rubbing his face in some, I'm sorry for the ladies, any ladies that are seeing this, rubbing in some titty. I'm sorry, that's the way he did it. That's the way it has to be stated. No disrespect to any woman, or man for that matter. Not trying to be disrespectful, but he's rubbing himself in some boobs. And then he went and poured some more down the gullet of a nice, I don't know if he was Japanese, Chinese, she looked Korean, maybe Chinese. I'm surprised if she hadn't been any closer, he would have rubbed his face into that as well. Then he got into the ring, and that's where it looked like he was legitimately drunk. Now, it doesn't mean that he just kind of looked like it was. Inebriation. Or inebriated. There you go, inebriate. I hate being dyslexic, sometimes I mispronounce word. Inebriated. There you go. Was it a good match? It was a nostalgia match. That's what it was. It wasn't really meant to put David Hart Smith 100% over or Brian Pillman Jr. It really wasn't that type of a match because they were in Philly. They were in the 2300 arena. I believe that's where they were. Essentially, that was for nostalgia. That's what it was. But in the end, the older guys didn't win, which wasn't a bad thing. You're not going to put David Hart Smith through that because he just won a super fight. Pillman wasn't going to do the job either. Just not going to happen. But for me personally, it just upsets me due to the fact the Singapore Cane... Breathe. The Singapore Cane match was so disappointing. And I know I can't remember which subscriber said this. He said it was a good hardcore match. I'm sorry. I'm not against you. But honestly, this was not about it being a hardcore match. It was about it being a Singapore Cane match, which is a specialized match that's supposed to show how tough you are. Just being a hardcore match, they could have just done something like Falls Count Anywhere or a hardcore match where they just brought stuff in. This was about being beaten by a cane if you lose your match. And that spilled over into this match. Because I look at Brian Pillman Jr. running around the ring because Sandman's scaring him with a freaking cane. It made him look like a bitch. Sorry guys, something hit the floor. Such wonderful timing. But it does make me upset. Now, it's still good to see they are trying to keep the how. This really is pissing me off about that cane match. The Hart Foundation still looks good. And Pillman does look strong. But where are they going to go now? Are they going to really end it with this situation between Tommy Dreamer and Brian Pillman? I hope they do. Because it's very disappointing for me personally. You guys might like it. But for me, it's disappointing. Now, I hope you enjoyed this. MLW Fusion episode 44. I gotta really think about it because I'm still getting used to it. Even though I've done a couple episodes already, it does take me like a month or two really not to forget so much. Particularly that I got so much on my mind. You have no idea the stuff I'm trying to build for my cousin. It's like, if anybody's seen Gundam Wing, I'll probably put an image on my face. One of those models that you gotta either put together or you buy it yourself. I'm building one for her. Out of the stuff you've seen in, probably I'll make an image of what I did with Starship Enterprise that I did. It's going to be made out of masking tape, cardboard, and some other stuff. And it's got to be flexible and it got to look good. And it's hard to think. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace.